Hello, folks. My name is Travis, and welcome to this edition of Hope on Wheels. In this edition of Hope on Wheels, I'm going to talk about something that is pretty near and dear to my heart, and that is I'm going to be continuing I'll call it a mini series that I started several months back. There's only a part one. This is part two of if you're disabled physically and you want to try to own, or I won't say own, but have a dog of your own in your life, things that you need to consider. Specifically, this video is going to talk around some expenses and things that need to be considered. So here we go. Before I get too heavily into this, let me put a disclaimer in here right now. The disclaimer is what I'm going to talk about are things based on my experience. This is just how things work for me. This is not a set way that things have to be done, okay? And how to approach something. But this is how that's going to go. I did talk about expenses a little bit in the last video, but this video is going to also include expenses of like insurance and things like that and why insurance is necessary, in my opinion. That being said, here we go, folks. Um, Back in June, I adopted a dog, which I named Aries. Just like my last dog, I chose to adopt because it ended up being the best option for me to have another animal in my life. Sorry about the extra noise you might be hearing. My dog is deciding to make a lot of noise at the moment, and I can't exactly control that. But anyway, um, once I decided that factor, the other thing I had to reconsider is expenses. You know, how am I going to manage dog food? How am I going to manage getting his vet bills and stuff paid for, and particularly the vet bills paid for. The reason I bring this up, folks, is that most people who receive benefits, um, and who in particularly live in assisted living situations, don't make a lot of money. They may have a job or they may not, but if they don't, sorry, if they don't have a job, my advice is really think about it before you bring another mouse into your household. Really think about it because the expenses, as the dog gets older in particular, can really add up. They can get to be really ugly. And I don't mean ugly as in worth it, I mean ugly as in expensive. Extremely ugly, expensive. An example of that for me was some of you who have been following me for a while have seen older videos with my first dog in it. Her name is Xena. Love her to death. I will never forget her. Um, and I'll never forget the people that helped me find her either. But into life expenses, I had an insurance policy for Xena. And the way that insurance policy worked, and I have the same, not exactly the same policy because that one doesn't exist anymore, but I have an insurance policy for Aries too. The way that pet insurance works is different than human insurance, folks. Pet insurance, you pay the bill first, then you get reimbursed. Now, there are other options. You can get what's called a pet care card, um, and your veterinarians are the ones that are going to have access to those. You don't apply. You can apply for those online, but they'll tell you which ones they will accept. And those work like a credit card, but they're for vet bills. You pay your bill using that card. The card has a set limit on it based on your income. And then if you have insurance, the reimbursement money you get back, you can put right back on the card to keep that card active so you can pay the vet bills. That being said, just like a credit card, that company is going to set a limit on how much they'll give you. I don't do that. I will just use my insurance, pay the bill, and let my insurance reimburse me. And they do it through direct deposit so that I don't have to wait weeks for a check. But let me explain something here too, folks. Pet insurance has a deductible just like human insurance does. Okay? But the way that works is you are paying for it, but you aren't. In other words, you're paying the deductible, but you're not paying the deductible. What I mean by that is, let's say your deductible is $100 for the year. And usually pet insurance works off deductibles for a year, not deductibles for a month. So let's say your deductible in total is $100 for the entire year. And let's say you get a bill, you go to the vet, you pay a bill that's only $75 in total. Well, you haven't paid up to $100. So $35 of your next bill goes towards your deductible, and like let's say your reimbursement period is up to 80%. Well, let's say your secondary bill is like $120. Okay? $35 of that doesn't even count because it goes towards your deductible. The rest of what's left, you'll get 80% of that back, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. It's pretty basic. But every bill past that, you will get back up to 80% or however much percent your plan has. Now, I use ASPCA Pet Insurance health plan services. I've used them before. They're very kind, very straightforward, and they've been very caring and honest about things when I submit claims. Now, there is a monthly fee that, depending upon what plan you go with, and when I say plan, there are a bunch of different ones depending upon size of the dog, breed, all that stuff they have to consider, where every month you do have to pay a fee every month, but that doesn't go toward your deductible. It just means you were continually having an active plan. And then the vet bills are what go towards your claim. Now, when you take your dog to the vet, you have to go online to the insurance company, which in my case, like I said, is ASPCA Pet Insurance, and fill out their form. It's real easy. You just click on claims under your account, and then you just follow the steps. They'll ask you to send a copy of your vet's vet visit so they can go over everything, which is easy to do. I do it all the time. And generally, when they're not swamped and we're not having to deal with a pandemic in the world, you're looking at probably 3 weeks to get reimbursed. Right now, they admit it's taking up to a month and a half to reimburse anyone that files because they're just swamped with new claims, new individuals applying for insurance, things like that. But at least they're honest and straightforward about it, and they'll just tell you it's taking us months right now because we weren't expecting this influx of people. That being said, like I said, folks, insurance is worth having because at the end of my dog Zena's life, I ended up paying in total over a month and a half 2 bills that came close to $700 in total for her end of life expenses. If I didn't have the insurance that I had at the time and have the reimbursement, I wouldn't have been able to make it through that process because you only get so much money in benefits and you only are allowed to work so much. So even my paychecks, which are decent size for someone in our situation, I still would have not been enough to keep me afloat. The insurance kept me from having major issues. And it also was nice to know that the insurance is willing to help you out for the end-of-life expenses. But insurance is something that I would just recommend somebody looking into. Now, you can spend the money out of your own pocket, never have to worry about insurance. I don't recommend it though. Because if you're an individual that has a disability and you receive benefits without insurance, it's not impossible, but it's very hard to afford the expenses of what a dog, or even another animal for that matter, is going to cost you. I say that because you got to keep in mind, folks, most people don't have the ability to save up money, because if they do, they can only have so much before the government says, okay, you've got too much money in your account, we have to cut you off. But keep in mind that insurance is there to help, and it does help. I've even got a new policy on my current dog Aries. And what made me think about talking about this topic now is about 2 weeks ago, I had to take my dog to the vet because he had gotten a scratch, hurt himself. He's doing fantastic now. He's healing up really well from it. But if I had not had the insurance, the amount that I had to pay for the bill was rather expensive. It, no reimbursement would have really been a bummer. So, just saying, folks, something to consider. It's real easy to do. I'm not going to make this video too long. I don't want to get it too much into the weeds, but it's just something to consider. And if you can't afford the insurance, that's fine. But I'm just asking you, from my experience to people wanting to have a dog, I know how much joy having a dog in my life brings to me, and it's worth the expense. But if you don't have the ability to have a job or a way to make a living, really think about whether you want to have a dog in your life or not. Because if you do, you really need to worry about the expenses, because they will add up. Not so much during the dog's life, except for when they get older. When they get older, as I stated before, when I had to make the hard call of making the decision for Xena, over the span of a month and a half, I spent it in total about $700. So it's something to really consider, folks. It was actually closer to 800 in total. And I got lucky in the fact that the veterinarian that I have worked with me to make that all happen. But just keep all that in mind. Also, one thing with insurance, you can have a vet get reimbursed themselves if they're willing to do that. Most vets in Alaska won't do that through pet insurance. They want their money immediately. So you're better off getting reimbursed yourself, setting up direct deposit with whatever company you go with, as long as they offer that, and then you getting reimbursed. Because most veterinarians, at least in Alaska that I've noticed, don't want to wait to get paid for rendering service. They want to get paid immediately. So, but still, the insurance doesn't care. They'll work with you either way. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments down below, or email me at tnoah@hopealaska.org, and I will get back to you and answer any questions that you might have as soon as possible. Thank you very much, folks. Hope this video helped you out. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.